I'm just going to be off topic. Throughout the last month, I've seen some videos that I've come across about conservatorships. Obviously, I don't read up on like Britney Spears or whatever, but I guess she was part of one. And yeah, when it comes to a lot of these stars and other people, obviously, if they can put a movie star and a rock star on a conservatorship, um, obviously they're going to be able to someone that doesn't have any power or clout, or money. I'm pretty much a utilitarian, really. I'm kind of a free will person, as long as you're not hurting somebody else. That's the golden rule. So, conservatorships for me, thinking about it, commitments. I guess in Massachusetts they have what you call a civil commitment, where your first relative, your mom and dad, I don't know about your grandparents, and your wife and your kids could petition to the court that you're harming yourself or others, and then they can commit you for X amount of time and be evaluated. So I guess that's kind of what a conservatorship is. Maybe not where you're institutionalized, but I guess financially they can control your money. It's controversial. It's, how can you really judge people's motives when they act? They say that they have good intention, that they're trying to help you, but really, is that really what they're trying to do? That seems like a skipping of the process. It's like you don't have to go to a jury, and you can just use a psychologist to lock you up and take control of your stuff without a judgment of your peers. And it's like, yeah, you have problems, so now they can take away your money or your control of your money. But yeah, I mean, you can say, yeah, the person's wasting all their money, man. But is it their money? Okay, it's their right to lose it all, even if it's not wise to lose all your money. So what level of freedom do you have? What level of freedom do you really have? Um, that's a big issue. It should be something that's looked at, and geez, I don't watch them anymore. I didn't really watch a ton of those videos. I didn't watch a ton of those videos of Mark Laeta, and that lady who wears like the camouflage spandex, and she runs like a rehab, or like, I guess an addict college or whatever. It's like a rehab, and what she does is she files for conservatorships to control the addicts' lives. And I guess that's what she did with like Bam Margarita or whatever, the guy from Jackass. And I guess that's just a rule of thumb what they do as a business. You got businesses that are set up who file for conservatorships, and I guess they're in Florida. That's freaking nuts. And you think about it, it's like, it's crazy that you can allow, especially when they have an incentive, a financial incentive to keep people in their rehab. Now they're going to be filing for conservatorships, taking people's money. And then, of course, the stuff that happened there with their new wave form of therapy, it's freaking, these are topics that should frustrate people because there's motives there. Despite the freedom, you earn your money, and now you can have someone, and it's, people steal. Even friends steal from friends. And obviously, then you're not a friend, but that happens. And it happens when people get involved in, like, controlling other people's money, and they think that they're not going to get caught. And the person who is in the conservatorship is viewed as being mentally ill. The person who's controlling the money might think that, well, they might not know, and then if they find out, they're not going to be believed. So therefore, they embezzle money out of the person's account. It happens. So it's, yeah. I think it's a pretty controversial, it should be a controversial thing. You shouldn't have to worry that you've made all the money that you made, that you earned, and maybe you have problems later in life. And that if that happens, people around you can file for a conservatorship and basically take your freedom away because you're mentally ill, It's kind of, where does it say in the Constitution that, your rights are yours until you become mentally ill, and then therefore we will remove you from those rights and put you into a form of non-rights or whatever, freedom. Being able to make stupid decisions is probably not wise, but you're free to make stupid decisions. That's the whole principle of being free, right? Then you basically have this, country run by freaking psychologists. Freaking psychologists are running the fucking country with their theories. With their credential, being able to say, yep, he's freaking nuts, man. And then freaking the courts are going based on the psychologist's analysis or whatever, or judgment, and here you are, now you don't have control over your money. Bypassing the system. It's just, especially when you have businesses doing it, and setting up a business model around conservatorships. It's just, man, that's fucking crazy, man. And that ties into norms. And I am definitely about the individual, really. I respect the group, but the rights of the individual is the rights of the individual. I'm oriented that way. Obviously, throughout my life, moving from so many jobs, because I have intolerances to coworkers who act certain ways. I'm just happen to be somebody who tends to walk away versus staying in conflict. I think it's a good way to handle it. So obviously I'm going to be an individualist because that's basically my mindset. Call me self-centered. And we all are. Depends on, I guess, the continuum of it. Like, from one extreme to the next. It's not all or nothing, right? So, yeah. That's just, it's not against the law to be mentally ill. You have the right to exist no matter how crazy you are. It kind of makes it against the law to have problems in a way. Well, you can really kind of blend it to that. It's like, hey, you're crazy, therefore we're going to sanction you somehow. And that's an issue. I'm not a woke person. Try not to be like, well, you should be awake. You should be aware of what people are doing. So, they've kind of put a negative connotation onto the term woke. Become aware of how you're being shaped and formed and how you think based on, therefore make better critical decisions. Don't be a puppet on a string with a bunch of hysterics. Basically that's what it is. It's a bunch of freaking people that are like living in hysterics when you're talking about all these issues that everybody's so up in arms about like gender, and all that crap. I mean, that's just, in a way, I'm not saying, if you're born a man biologically, then that's what you are biologically. How you express it is just how you express it. Scientifically, I guess, your biological sex is determined in the second trimester. Therefore, then you're born. That's kind of, I'm not judging anybody who believes otherwise or pro or con. That's not really the issue. I'm losing track of my brain here. The issue being, people have issues with identity. Even if it isn't an issue and you don't want to see it as an issue, okay. That's really beside the point as well. But to be campaigning publicly in a hysteria type fashion over this issue is really the thing that we should be realizing, that really, someone's dilemma about who they are identity-wise and how they express it socially is, not our business. It's the person's business. So that's part of the issue is, here trying to shame people about having mental problems, or even if you don't see it as a mental problem, I think they've kind of stepped away from the idea that, hey, if you identify otherwise, of course, yeah. At first, before I was aware of it, I made the joke personally. I'm like, oh yeah, this person identifies as a cat. Just in my mind, just joking around. And then I come across some videos where a person actually invested money and became a dog. And I'm like, holy crap. I thought it was, just being extreme, thinking of like an extreme version of, yeah, I guess people, I think those are kind of extreme ideas. But the issue of gender expression isn't new. It's been around for centuries. And obviously, I've studied psychology, and the DSM, they probably updated it from the DSM-4. Gender, I think. was there. So therefore, there's definitely a connotation of mental illness that they used to believe, of stability of your gender. But I think that in today's time, people have kind of, I guess, maybe moved away from thinking that. So, yeah. But the idea that I'm talking about is the stigma of, making like social movements based on what you should be. And it ties into freedom of the individual. And people don't realize it. But you're really going against freedom. I mean, you're trying to get involved in these hysteric movements of, like, you know, that you shouldn't be able to. I almost wanted to take that. Almost. Because I'm friggin' trying to get out my ideas. That when you think about it, of the freedom of the individual, it's somebody expressing their gender that way, causing harm to somebody else. Is somehow someone's looking like or believing that they are other than what their biological sex is. Does that cause any harm? So it's pretty simple. So therefore, when you look at that from that perspective, and you're going crazy, making posts and getting politically active about these issues, you're not really into freedom. Basically, a lot of people, I think, believe that you have the right to be who you are based on democracy. It's up to popular opinion that you can be who you are. Kind of like, the tyranny of the majority, right? Majority rules. You can't do that because everybody is against that, right? And judgment. But when you look at it from a stigma point of view, trying to be compassionate, you should understand that everybody has their issues, and making fun of them publicly on YouTube and Facebook and whatever doesn't make it any better. So therefore, it's kind of like critical thinking of trying to, just, I guess, mind your business, I guess. It's all right to have an opinion, but where do you cross the line, right? I guess. Yeah, it's crazy. It's funny how it does tie in, though, to conservatorships and control. So I guess all of what I'm saying is it does pertain to, I guess the root of it all is freedom of the individual. So basically, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to name this not conservatorships. Well, I think I'm going to title this video Conservatorships versus the freedom of the individual. That's what I'll do it, because really all of what I talked about here is about individuality and freedom, and then stigmatism and mental illness and freedom to burn through all your money, and the ethics behind using psychology to take away your money under the guise of good intentions, when really they might not be good intentions. And people around you often have bad intentions and are sneaky. When you talk about like inheritances and people wanting what they want and fucking being dirtbags. But yet, people wouldn't label them dirtbags, but they are. They're sneak-like dirtbags who just want to take your money. You know what I mean? And people do that. Um, People are deceitful. And one way to try to steal people's money, if someone's having problems, is to, hey, the guy's crazy. He's hurting himself. And we need to help him not hurt himself. So let me be his power of attorney and take control of his money so I can basically take it. It's pretty much what that kind of a system does. Which ethics, psychologists are often control freaks. They're pretty much normalists. They pretty much want to police everybody to be normal. They focus on problems and correcting problems, you know. So they're going to be biased. The ethics of psychologists applying their psychology to their family, that's a conflict of interest, and that's an ethical discussion. You can't have someone who has a valid psychology degree applying it against their relatives. So that's just a crazy. So we've pretty much gone into hysterics, pretty much as a country, of dealing with issues that are just personal issues, and they shouldn't be the individual shouldn't be governed by the group unless they're causing harm, i.e. violence, physical violence, hurting people's feelings. I'm not, you shouldn't be obviously hurting people's feelings, but that isn't physical violence. Okay? Let's not get to the extreme of like, oh my God, you hurt my feelings. I think you should go to jail. I'm not saying you should be going around hurting people's feelings, but blending that in with violence is, not something to do. I mean, I'm not saying that hate speech should be included. You can see where the blending of the lines kind of gets blended with free speech. Definitely, I agree. You can't yell fire and have everybody panic, believe you, and that should be protected. It shouldn't be. But, you can't say conning people out of money is freedom of speech either, obviously. So, I'm not like, hey man, let's go around utilizing hate speech. It's freedom of speech. But you should be able to express yourself in your opinion. Obviously, inciting people to do violence against individuals shouldn't be protected. That's common sense. A lot of people going to Los Angeles today. So, obviously, the crux of the video is individualism, and stigma, and mental illness, and freedom. Definitely, how many bags is in this? I should take this, damn it. I'm not gonna. There's just don't want to do it. Yeah. So I guess what you need to do is be careful. If you want your freedom, is to be careful who you're around. Be around people who you know you can trust. And just because they're your family doesn't mean you can trust them. Doesn't mean that they're not going to try to take your shit. If you want true freedom, you have to be careful who you let in your life, I guess. Because the moment you start to go crazy, not, just being a comedian there, using that, then you'll see who your true friends are. And I don't think a true friend would file for a conservatorship unless I can see where a person's being taken advantage of. But then, yeah, it's just I'm a freedom kind of guy. Not trying to be one of those virtue signaling type people. You shouldn't be going for beyond an issue because of the bandwagon effect. So yeah, be careful, I guess. I don't think it'll ever happen to me, but yeah, that's one thing. Is like, well, it's cool that, like, not that my father would, or even my sister, but they wouldn't be able to anyway, because I was adopted. So legally, I don't have their name. So legally, I guess legally they're not related to me legally. So I'm like, haha, you wouldn't be able to put a conservatorship on me, I don't think. I don't know. But in Massachusetts, it has to be first related. Or I guess it could be a psychiatrist or a police, I guess, can petition for it. But I don't know. Maybe in California and Florida, it doesn't have to be a first relative. And that's a very important distinction. You can't just have people that aren't related to you, making these controversial moves against you. Because that obviously should be a scary thing to ponder. If you have money and you're having issues or whatever, and now you have people around you circumventing your ability to choose. People should be concerned and fearful of that. So, yep. I guess if you have money like Britney Spears, they're able to do that to her. I mean, obviously they might be able to do it to you. It's usually people with money have a little bit more ability to exert rights, right? I don't know. I guess if you're rich, what you do is you have lawyers on retainer that are good, that can, advocate for you. That would be, I guess, a thing to do, is to, hire an attorney that you can trust, that will prevent stuff like that, I guess, from happening. Because if you don't, then I guess maybe you might be susceptible to having people around you try to wrestle money out of you, I guess. I don't know. But, so, yeah, we can look at, like, when it comes to movies, there is, you don't have to be anti-progressive to have these feelings. It's like when you see the movie and you kind of know that they're putting these themes in, it does take away from the movie in a way. It's like, well, there always is this political. It seems like they've put a political agenda into it, and it kind of like, oh, okay, this is politics. Takes away from the art, I guess, when you know that that they're trying to sell you on an idea. It kind of seems like a lot of these movies that I've seen, you can kind of see that. And I think that's kind of the adverse reaction that people have against well-intentioned art, is that you're trying to sell them onto an agenda. And I guess maybe that's the thing that gets people to be reverse against having compassion towards people, is when they're thinking that they're being sold to, and that's why maybe good music and good movies should not try to put political ideas into their movies, as like maybe even you can include that with sports, to try to be neutral, because it kind of maybe has the opposite effect of what you're intending, because people don't want to be preached to, I guess. So then I guess you can kind of see that the modern secular kind of like, we believe in science, well, you're kind of your own religion. You're pretty much doing the same thing that the church has been doing for centuries, pushing your agenda, trying to preach to people. So how do you not preach to people? So I guess that's a topic that's pretty relevant in today's society, and to think about. So I guess you can use the term woke and try to be, I guess, woke to what's important, I guess. What's your business versus what's their business? And what do you have the right to do versus what you don't have the right to do? So I guess you can look at issues, polarizing issues, like obviously identity and gender conformity is tied into all this stigma and control and individualism. And really, when thinking about it, you don't have to agree, but we do agree that individual freedom is what we have. So it's not like you don't have to be in agreement that, hey, that person believes that Jack is Jill and Jill is Jack. That's not the point. That's not the point, I guess. To be able to believe in freedom and understand that it's not, I guess, my right to try to prohibit someone from expressing the way that they want to express themselves, I guess. I mean, it is kind of funny. I mean, look at glam rock back in the 80s. Axl Rose in that video looked like he was trying to be a female in that video back in the 80s. No one said nothing. You know what I mean? All that stuff. I mean, come on, man. It's kind of funny how we're all up in arms now. You know what I mean? I mean, look at all that. Those hair bands back in the 80s. I mean, geez. We didn't bat an eye about any of that. So, yeah, hysteria. Looking for clicks. Clicks on YouTube and social media. Obviously, is a way to get clicks is to get people on the debate, and to be, to basically virtue signal on the other side. You got the virtue signaler that's like, hey, I'm progressive and look at me. And then you have the other side that are doing the same thing. Hey, I'm signaling my virtue here. I hate trannies. And, yeah, man, I belong, That's kind of, they're doing the same thing. They're just on the other side of the coin, So, yeah, just not trying to hate on people who, because I'd like to think that I'm an individualist, that I act in this world based on how I think and don't care what other people think. But that isn't really true. I think that's a continuum too. I mean, there's a lot of things that I won't do that I feel pressured on. So in that way, I'm not 100% like I just go with expectations. But yeah, I can see how other people's opinions matter to me, even though I don't like to admit it. So some people can be different and know that they're at odds with the group and be okay with it. Yeah, some people can't. That's just the way life is. We're social beings, man. Being social beings, we're susceptible to the herd effect, right? So, and that's probably the reason, too, is like you have the few people that have issues and it seems like everybody's on that side, but really they're not. People just don't want to argue, and they're not really caring. They just don't want to be the target of the loudmouths, I guess. So therefore they just keep their mouth shut and say nothing. So yeah, I guess freedom of speech, agendas, and individualism, is kind of what makes America, in my opinion, a special place where, no one wants to really live by popular opinion. That your freedom is based on people's opinion. That's, I guess, the topic. So, I will let you guys go, and I'm going to accept some of these trips. I've got to make some money. I'm just going to be really picky and pick the right ones, and I'll let you guys go. Thank you.